You've discovered MyStar Radio, a riveting podcast where secrets long forgotten are unearthed and brought to light. Be sure to subscribe, share and comment, engaging with the truths that lie within. And now, to your host, Kaz Quantumist.
Subscribe now.
Welcome to MyStar Wisdom, ancient galactic insights for modern earthly souls. Today's episode is titled Sacred Stillness, the Path to Alignment and Authority. I am Kaz, your Quantumist. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Those words from the Lord's Prayer were spoken nearly 2,000 years ago, around 30 AD. Few have stopped to truly consider the principle woven into them. What exists above should be mirrored below. What lives within should appear without. 800 years later, an alchemical philosopher writing under the name Hermes Trismegistus captured the same law in what became known as the Emerald Tablet, a text rooted in the ancient Hermetic tradition of Greco-Roman Egypt. He wrote, "As above, so below. As within, so without. Different language, different era, one mirror." Modern mind-body science and the placebo effect in particular shows that what the mind holds as true, the body begins to enact. Inner states shape chemistry, posture, breath, and eventually the atmosphere of our lives. Philosophy, spirituality, and science converge on the same conclusion. Meditation is where that alignment becomes conscious and deliberate. Friends, I want to share some gratitude. As of today, April 14th, 2026, MyStar Wisdom has reached 26 countries. The United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia. Those make sense. What stands out are the others. Iraq, the Philippines, Vietnam, Japan, and more across the world, where English is not the primary language. To everyone listening, whether you are one soul or one of the 144,000, thank you. And to those of you in those distant places, a special acknowledgement. It is not about reaching the masses. This podcast is for those seeking the frequency and signal I convey. An appropriate quote to open with. And it comes from one of the most influential Christian theologians and philosophers in all of human history. Written in the 4th century, over 1,600 years ago, it speaks directly to what we are exploring today. St. Augustine of Hippo, 354 to 430 AD, from his work De Vera Religione, Noli foras aere, inter ipsum redi, in interiore homine habitat veritas, which translates as, "Do not wander far and wide, but return into yourself. Deep within the person dwells the truth." Almost 2,000 years ago, and we are still out here wandering. We sometimes chase answers in noise, in opinions, in the constant pull of everything outside of us. And Augustine, a man who himself wandered for years before he turned inward, is saying, "Come home. The truth was never out there. It was always waiting inside." What happens when we actually stop looking outward and choose to return? Some listeners ask me why I always emphasize the importance of meditation in most episodes. I always say meditation is the key, and the natural follow-up to that is the key to what? Meditation is the key to unlocking the chapters of your life, the key to seeing past the veil, the key to clarity, to peace, to protection, the key to joy, to success, to alignment with everything good that is meant for your life, the key to receiving what is already waiting for you. And just as many people have come to understand the power of prayer, so too has meditation come to be seen as a gift. When approached from a spiritual place, it becomes direct. a clear line beyond the noise of this world, a personal connection to higher awareness, to source, to that place within you where clarity is present and everything is known. This episode is not another how-to. This is the why. For those of us who feel that pull toward something greater, toward love, toward light, toward serving something good in this world, this is where that question finally gets answered. Why meditation? Meditation is the one place where everything becomes clear without force. You're not adding anything, you're allowing what is already there to come forward. Many people say, I was meditating, or when I meditate and I ask a direct question, what do you mean by that? What do you actually do? If you already meditate, how are you meditating? Not just that you do it. What are you actually doing when you sit down? What are you bringing into that stillness? What are you intending? What are you aligned with? Most people have never really contemplated those questions, and they matter more than most people in this space will tell you. Many times, not always, many times people pause. They think about it, they try to explain it, and it becomes unclear. They know they were doing something, they felt something, yet when it comes time to explain it, they cannot really define it. And part of that pause comes from something most have never had the chance to consider. Many people are not actually meditating, they are spending quiet time with themselves, and there is a difference. The mind does not stop thinking. That is not its job. It never will be. Even those who have practiced for decades still experience thoughts entering. The difference is not that the thoughts disappear. The difference is they no longer take you with them. The mind will keep doing what it does. Your role is to stop following it everywhere it goes. Meditation is not about stopping your thoughts. It is about no longer following every thought. The moment you notice the mind has wandered and you bring your awareness back, that moment right there is meditation. Not the silence, not the emptiness, the return. That return is the practice. And every single time you come back, you are building something most people never develop. You are not failing when the mind wanders. You are succeeding every time you come back. It does not need to be perfect. It needs to be consistent. So we bring it back to the foundation. Meditation begins the moment you are willing to sit with yourself without distraction, not to perform, not to chase an outcome, to hold your awareness in one place long enough for the noise to settle. That is where it starts. To be still, and you will know. Everything else, techniques, sounds, environments come after. Those are additions, refinements. The foundation is always the same. You, present, aware, and still. That is where the shift begins, and that is why meditation continues to come up in these conversations. Who this episode is for. This episode isn't about what you should do. It's about what you could do. Should conditions you. Could sets you free. That is life. We choose, we decide, we figure it out as we go. What works for one person does not always work for the next. What feels right for you is right for you. We follow the laws of the land. We give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. And beyond that, when it comes to the inner life, that choice belongs to no one but you. When we choose to open the inner door through stillness, precision matters. And we will come back to that. For now, just hold it. Meditation. There is nothing new under the sun here. It has been practiced across every culture, every tradition, every corner of human history for calm, focus, healing, and spiritual connection. The word itself means to focus, to reflect, to become still, to receive. For a long time, the word meditation carried a stigma. In many households, mine included, it was considered taboo. Some connected it to things they did not understand. Others believed it had no place near faith. Then, more and more people began to recognize the value of meditation, not just in one place or one belief system, but across cultures, science, and different backgrounds. What was once misunderstood, dismissed, or seen as something strange started to be understood for what it is. And just like that, something that once felt taboo became widely accepted. It has never been about the word, the posture you sit in, the chanting, the humming, or any of the rituals people associate with it. Across cultures and traditions, all of these practices and techniques carry different levels of depth, understanding, and meaning, many of them rooted in an awareness that goes far beyond what most people realize. To understand those levels often requires years of dedication, focus, and practice. The multitude of levels one can reach should never be dismissed. They deserve respect. At the foundation of it all, it has always been about the intention. There are thousands of excellent teachings on breathing techniques, mudras, and structured methods. That is not what we are here for today. This episode is for all listeners resonating with this channel. We are already on a similar frequency. This is for those walking a spiritual path or beginning to feel that pull. All forms of meditation have value. Listen to what is already moving within you. Meditation is simple. Meditation is as simple as breathing. Once we recognize this, everything begins to shift. No performance required, only presence. Silence helps. Most of us find it easier to be still without noise around us. What matters most is being still within ourselves. A quiet mind in a noisy room is still meditation. A restless mind in a silent room is something else entirely. We have all done it. We create the perfect environment, sit down, close our eyes, and then watch the mind race off with a to-do list, yesterday's conversation, or tomorrow's worry. The body stays still while the person is anywhere but here. That is not meditation. That is sitting with our thoughts in a quiet room. Nothing wrong with it. It is just not the same thing. The reality is, many of us are more uncomfortable with ourselves than we realize. Many of us cannot look in the mirror for long without finding something to do with ourselves. We must do something to distract us from being with ourselves. Sitting alone with yourself can sometimes feel more uncomfortable than sitting with a stranger. That realization that there is something within us we avoid often goes unnoticed because we are in constant movement. That discomfort follows us into the silence. We are not running from stillness. We are running from ourselves. Most people are not afraid of silence. They are afraid of what silence might reveal about themselves. Meditation is the invitation to stop running, to sit with what is actually there. And that takes courage. What we are after is stillness within. That begins with willingness. The moment we become willing to sit with ourselves without fleeing what arises, that is where it truly begins. Not a performance, a decision. When the mind wanders, you do not fight it, you do not judge it, you notice it, and you return. That return is the practice. You do not need the perfect environment. You need willingness. Everything else follows. Some find it easier with guided meditations. Others prefer their own silence. Both are perfect. The form that resonates with you is the right one. Quiet time and stillness. There is a difference between being at peace and being still. Engaging in an activity such as fishing, walking alone, hiking, biking, exercising, or even moving with music in your headphones can feel calm and settling. There is value in that. It eases the mind and slows things down. Many people call that their personal quiet time time alone, away from the noise of the world where they can think, reflect, and reset. Quiet time is important. It gives you space. It allows you to step away and clear your head. Stillness is different. In quiet time, attention is still engaged on the activity, the movement, the music, the surroundings, what is happening around you. I once had a discussion with someone about their meditation practice. I just sit and contemplate, they said. I agreed that thoughtful reflection has value, and I then offered an exercise to show the difference between mental engagement and genuine stillness. I explained that they would recite the alphabet from A to Z while I called out random numbers, and when they reached Z, I would ask them to repeat the numbers I had spoken. They began A, B, C as I spoke the numbers aloud. When the alphabet was done, I asked them to tell me any of the numbers that I called out. They could only remember one number, and it was the last number I spoke. Their attention wasn't absent, it was already occupied. Contemplation keeps the mind busy. Stillness, by contrast, releases it. When the mind is occupied, even in something calm, it cannot receive. Quiet time can exist with a busy mind. Meditation cannot. Quiet time can feel peaceful while the mind is still active, still thinking, still moving. Meditation begins when that movement settles, and awareness is no longer chasing thought, but resting in stillness. Quiet time allows you to think. It allows you to process. It allows you to reset. Meditation allows you to receive. It is not about adding more thought. It is about creating the space for what is already there to come through. Both matter. Personal quiet time is important. We need it. Meditation goes beyond that. It is where awareness is brought inward and held there in stillness without distraction. That is where the shift begins. Here is a simple way to know where you are. If your attention is engaged, you are occupied. If your attention is resting, you are available. That is the difference. The many forms. Longer is not always better. 10 to 15 minutes may be all we need on a given day. Others sit for 30 minutes, an hour or two. That is their path, guided by their own intuition. If all we ever do is sit and be genuinely still, that is enough. Everything else is refinement. Even a few genuine minutes done consistently will do more than long sessions done occasionally. Consistency over performance. The forms are vast, contemplative, mindfulness, focused breathing, mantra, loving kindness, visualization, movement practices like walking or yoga, progressive relaxation, transcendental, and spiritual practice focused on connection with the divine. Most people only know one version. Someone sitting cross-legged saying, Om. That is one method among thousands. Some prefer guided sessions, chimes, music, rain sounds, or complete silence. I move between them depending on what I feel in the moment. Even years of consistent practice and thoughts still arise. Distractions still come, especially when life feels overwhelming. That is precisely when meditation becomes most important, not least. Let me make an important point here about guided meditation. Guided meditation is useful, especially in the beginning. It gives structure, it gives direction, it helps many people get started. At the same time, it comes with a limitation. When you're listening to someone else's voice, you are still following someone else's timing, someone else's pace, someone else's rhythm. Even the pauses are not yours. That means a part of your awareness is still outward, still listening, still waiting, still being guided. That is not wrong. It is just not complete. The goal is never dependence. Guided meditation is a starting point, not a destination. At some point, the practice begins to become your own. And when it does, you begin to realize something very simple. The most reliable guide you have has been with you the entire time. Your own breath, your own rhythm, your own natural pace. No instruction, no timing, no dependence, just presence. The deepest stillness does not come from following a voice. It comes from no longer needing one. Guided meditation can open the door. Silence and your own breath is where you walk through it. Posture. Posture comes up often and it is worth addressing briefly. Most practitioners sit, some stand, some lie down. Each has its place, though sitting remains the most widely practiced across traditions for good reason. What matters most is remaining alert and present. Meditation is not sleep. The two can feel similar at the edges, but the intention is different. Sleep is surrender. Meditation is presence. Many traditions recommend a straight spine, and the reason runs deeper than comfort. Physically, it allows the lungs to expand fully and helps keep the body alert rather than drifting towards sleep. The body and the brain are in constant communication. How we hold the body sends a message. Aligned posture says, I am present, I am aware, I am here. In many traditions, the spine is seen as the central channel through which energy flows. When it is aligned, so are we. The physical reasons alone are compelling. For those familiar with the concept of Kundalini, the deeper reasons go further still. This is why the cross-legged, seated position became so widely associated with meditation. Sitting cross-legged or upright at the edge of a chair follows the same principle. The chair is not a compromise. It is simply another way to arrive at the same place, useful at home, in an office, or even on an airplane. The spine is aligned. The body is stable. The position can be held with ease. When the body is not adjusting, the mind is free. Kneeling has its place in certain practices, though over time it can restrict circulation or create tension. For sustained stillness, a position the body can hold without struggle is always the wiser choice. Standing meditation is practiced in traditions such as Zen and Taoist disciplines, where it is used to build grounded awareness and presence. Less common than seated practice, though effective for those who connect with it. In many cases, lying down leads to sleep. When the body becomes horizontal, it often shifts into rest mode. If you can remain genuinely aware while lying down, it can be a valid practice. For most, however, it becomes rest rather than meditation. Posture is refinement, not a requirement. Find what keeps you alert and present. That is the right position for you. Hand positions. People often wonder what to do with their hands. For some, it feels awkward. For others, the hesitation runs a little deeper than awkwardness. A great deal of what people associate with meditation has been shaped by what they have seen on screen rather than what they have actually experienced. Movies and media have created an image that can feel unusual, unfamiliar, or for some, genuinely unsettling. We fear what we have not yet explored. And if you have followed this podcast, you already know that fear is a favorite tool. It has kept many people away from something that could enhance their lives. The reality is simple. There is nothing here to fear. What you are doing is sitting with yourself in stillness, with awareness. That is all. Your hands simply need a place to rest. The most common position is resting both hands in the lap, palms facing upward. Open palms suggest receptivity, a willingness to receive. Others prefer palms facing downward, placed on the thighs. This tends to be more grounding, more anchored to the present moment. Some rest one hand inside the other, the left hand cradled in the right. both placed gently in the lap. This creates a natural sense of balance and inner stillness. There is a reason it feels right to many. The left side of the body is traditionally associated with receiving and with the heart. Supported in the right, it creates a quiet harmony between the two. There are also specific hand positions known as mudras. You may have seen the index finger touching the thumb or other variations. These are used across many traditions and are said to correspond to energy pathways within the body, similar to acupressure points. They carry real value for those who explore them. They are not required to begin. Keep it simple for now. Let your hands rest in a way that feels natural and comfortable. Nothing forced, nothing complicated. Stillness is the goal. Everything else supports it. Eyes open or closed. Most people close their eyes when they meditate, and there is a good reason for it. Closing the eyes reduces visual input, signals the mind to turn inward, and helps shift awareness away from the outer world and toward the inner one. For most people, this is the natural starting point. More experienced practitioners sometimes keep their eyes partially or fully open, with a soft, relaxed gaze focused on a single point. A candle flame, a fixed spot on a wall, the horizon of the ocean. The focus is not something to stare at, but something to rest the eyes upon, while awareness turns inward. Neither approach is superior. Closed eyes draw you inward more easily. Open eyes develop a different kind of presence, one that remains steady, even with the outer world in view. Both serve the same purpose. Choose the one that helps you arrive. All of these details, the posture, the hands, the eyes, are refinements. What matters most is what lies beneath all of it, and that is entirely your own. Your path is yours. We enter this world alone, and we leave this world alone. That is part of the experience, to live as individuals. Your path is different from mine. Mine is different from yours. No two paths are alike. True spiritual community supports your journey. It does not decide your journey for you. In my own life, it has shown up like this. The most recurring number connected to my life is 17. Most people would call it my lucky number. It is connected to my birth date and has appeared in significant ways I have shared across other episodes. I was born on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. When you add the month, date, and year of my birth, it still reduces to 17. My full name in numerology reduces to 17. My national identification number reduces to 17. The addresses connected to my life reduce to 17. My license plate reduces to 17. I did not seek any of this. The patterns revealed themselves, not all at once, as I became ready to recognize them. For those who study ancient symbolism and sacred numerology, 17 carries a deeper meaning. It is associated with the star, a symbol of light, of guidance, of divine gift. Anyone familiar with these teachings will understand. Regular listeners may have noticed that I always close by saying, I am your star. You are my star. We are all one. And that the voice at the close of this podcast announces Numbers, chapter 11, verse 17. Perhaps none of that is accidental. There is an ancient principle found across many wisdom traditions. Deeper truth is not always received the same way by everyone. Readiness determines what can be recognized. This is not about exclusion. It is about timing. There are people walking this earth who, for their whole lives, have sensed a calling, a pull towards something greater, a feeling that there is more to discover, more to become, more to fulfill, not out there somewhere, within them. They have not yet named it, but they feel it. And when certain words are spoken or certain patterns begin to appear, a recognition stirs, quietly, instantly, without needing explanation. If you felt that nudge just now, pay attention to it. That is not coincidence. That is recognition. When good things happen repeatedly and a number keeps appearing at the center of those moments, most people call it luck. That is the natural language for it. For me, it has never felt like luck. What I believe in is design, patterns placed with intention, breadcrumbs set along a path. That is what the number 17 has been for me. That does not mean 17 is your signal. Worth noting that 17 is not unique to me alone. Others were born on the 17th. Some may find this number appearing in their own story in ways that feel significant. If that is the case, honor it. A number does not belong to one person. What is personal is the pattern, the way it reveals itself specifically in your life, through your name, your dates, your relationships, your journey. Your marker is yours alone. The form it takes is for you to discover. Some hear my story and my connection to the number 17, and from that begin to treat it as their own. That may feel right for them. That is not for me to decide. The number itself is not what counts. What reveals itself to each of us in our own lives in its own way is what matters. It may come through a number, a name, a pattern that continues to appear without being forced or searched for. There is a difference between recognizing something and chasing it. When it is real, it shows up on its own. It does not need to be pursued or turned into something we try to control. Whatever comes to you, let it arrive naturally, in its own time, and through all of it, we stay grounded in this. We are walking our own path, not someone else's. This brings me to a story, tragic and important. Giordano Bruno was a 16th century Italian philosopher, mathematician, and free thinker. A brilliant mind who questioned everything and arrived at ideas far ahead of his time. He believed in an infinite universe and the deep connection between the individual and the divine. He followed his inner truth wherever it led, not where the most powerful institution of his era told him it should lead. That institution was the Catholic Church at the height of its power. Powerful men sought him out. What Bruno understood could not be handed over like a textbook. It had to be lived. What they could not grasp, they feared. What they feared, they sought to destroy. Giordano Bruno was burned alive at the stake in Rome on February 17th, 1600. He was given multiple chances to recant. He refused every single time. They silenced him with fire. Then something remarkable happened. The world caught up with him. His ideas were vindicated. In 1889, nearly 300 years later, a statue of Giordano Bruno was erected on the exact spot where they burned him in the Campo de' Fiori, where he stands to this day. They burned him where he stood, then built him a monument where he fell. One final detail stands out. February 17th, 1600. In numerology, 2 + 1 + 7 + 1 + 6 + 0 + 0 equals 17. And 17 itself reduces further. 1 + 7 = 8, the number of infinity, the symbol of the endless cycle. For those who understand, nothing more needs to be said. And for those who have noticed, the voice at the close of this podcast announces Numbers chapter 11, verse 17. A verse about divine spirit being shared, not carried by one alone. Breadcrumbs are sometimes hiding in plain sight. For Bruno, February 17th, 1600, marked his complete demise. For me, seeing that number was a confirmation. 17 has always been associated with something positive in my life, a sign of being in the right place, moving in the right direction, good fortune, and seeing it there on that date, connected to that story, only deepened what I already believed. 17 has been a breadcrumb throughout my life, my signal, the number that keeps appearing in ways I could never have manufactured in this one lifetime. And given what I now believe about the soul, about previous lifetimes, about the journey we take before arriving here, I cannot help but wonder if that number is something I set up for myself long before this life, a marker, a way of knowing I was still on the right path. What patterns are already present in your life waiting to be recognized? And if numbers speak to you, if you find yourself drawn to a particular number or notice one appearing consistently in your life, pay attention. Start with what is closest to you, your birth date, your full name in numerology, and pay attention to the people who have shown up most significantly in your life. Some people notice that every important relationship in their life shares a name, or a middle name, or a birthday. In my case, it has been the number 17 appearing across names, dates, and places in ways I could never have planned. Your sign may be a number, it may be a name, it may be something else entirely. You may already sense it. It is closer than you think. What is meant for you will find you. My first meditation. My own discovery of meditation was nothing I planned, nothing I sought, and nothing I would have predicted. In many ways, I later realized I may have been unknowingly keeping myself occupied to avoid the inevitable, as if some part of me already sensed there was a calling, a meeting with something greater that I was not yet ready to face. And so I kept moving, kept busy, kept my distance from anything and even anyone that felt too spiritual, too inward, too unfamiliar. And I want to be clear. Spirituality and religion are not the same thing. I was not avoiding faith. I was avoiding the deeper call within myself, the one that required stillness, the one that required honesty, the one that required me to stop running from myself. It was time to truly meet myself, to face myself. You have heard the words before, starting with the man in the mirror. Most people sing it, few people actually do it. It was time for me to meet the me, myself, and I. The date was February 15th, 2018. Earlier that same morning, around 2 or 3 in the morning, something significant occurred. A spiritual experience I have spoken about in parts across other episodes. I have never told the full story because it still carries too much to properly capture in words. Those familiar with my podcast know what I refer to as the dream. In that dream, there were 3 messengers. One appeared to be the primary. The other 2 served as witnesses. They communicated telepathically as one, and what they revealed felt more real than this present moment. Choices were offered to continue living within the normal rhythm of everyday life, or to choose to evolve, to expand, to seek something far more meaningful, to remember what was already known within me. I asked them, what if I chose not to go forward? The answer was, made to forget. I asked, what do you mean made to forget? The answer came intuitively, not in words, but in knowing, to fall back into a slumber, to continue on a path focused on material things, on the daily hustle, on what I had considered important, but which, in that moment, I understood to be far less significant than the existence, the awareness, and the evolution of my own soul. Many people live that way their entire lives, not by fault, not by failure. The awareness has not yet arrived, or when it does arrive, it comes quietly and without dramatic clarity, and the doubt, the fear, the lack of a support system causes them to dismiss it, to remain as most of us are until we recognize, choose, and decide that we are ready. ready for self-revelation. The opportunity is given to many, the choice to awaken, to remember, to evolve. It does not always arrive in a dream. It arrives in different ways for different people. The question is whether we have the awareness to recognize it when it comes. For me, in that moment, the choice was clear. And I said yes. And when I chose yes, when I said I wanted to expand, to grow, to remember, it was conveyed to me clearly that meditation would be the key to remembering, the key to what some call awakening. Though for me, awakening has always felt more like remembering, because nothing we discover within ourselves is truly new. It was always there. In that moment, the revelation of my soul's eternal existence was made known to me. This is when I understood that the mind and the body were destined to eventually decay. And this is when the awareness became clear and front and center. The soul is where my focus needed to be. The soul lives. The mind and body are temporary. Soul first, then mind, then body. And suddenly I understood that all things were possible. If one thing could be true beyond what I had previously accepted, then the possibility of all things being true had to be considered as well. This included concepts I had always dismissed as nonsense. And in that moment, I realized it was never the concept that was incomprehensible. It was my level of awareness that could not yet conceive of what existed beyond what we collectively call normal. Just because we cannot conceive or comprehend something does not make it untrue. Think of standing on one side of a wall. You see what is in front of you. You accept that as reality. On the other side of that same wall exists a completely different view, different perspectives, different concepts, different possibilities, different dimensions entirely. The wall does not make the other side disappear. It means we have not yet walked around it. That was the shift. Not that I suddenly knew everything, rather that I understood for the first time that what I did not know was far greater than what I did, and that the door to all of it was within me. And this is also when I understood something about the soul itself. My soul had access to knowledge that could not have been gathered in a single lifetime. This was the first time I truly understood why so many believe in previous and continuous life experiences on earth. Things that were coming to me, things I now describe as remembering, did not originate from this lifetime. They felt like echoes from many lifetimes before. This is why I now firmly believe in the possibility of incarnation and reincarnation. And this is why, when I later read Journey of Souls by Dr. Michael Newton, everything in that book felt less like new information and more like recognition, not stories I was learning for the first time. For me, it was more such as, oh yes, now I remember. Newton speaks about souls at different levels of experience, some older, some newer in their journey, organized into groups, returning together across lifetimes to learn, to grow, to expand. The people we call family, the ones we call soulmates, the connections that feel immediate and ancient at the same time. He suggests these are not accidents. They are arrangements. And when I read that, something in me said, yes, of course, I already knew this. If you have not read that book and these ideas resonate with you, I recommend it. To tell you what to believe is not the point. It may help you remember what you already know. And this is also where the breadcrumbs began to reveal themselves. The information about the number 17 I mentioned earlier, that belief does not come from coincidence alone. It comes from this moment, from this awakening, from this expanding awareness that began on that morning. After this experience, things started to reveal themselves that I had no way of knowing before. The most significant people I have encountered in my life, the most meaningful relationships, all began to show patterns I could not have manufactured, names that matched, middle names shared among people who never knew each other, as I have mentioned in a previous episode, and even the names of the most significant connections of my life, when examined numerologically, reveal a clear connection to 17. Breadcrumbs, real or not real, true or not true, you decide. You are right either way. And if you have listened to the Believe or Not to Believe episode, you already know exactly what I mean by that. Until that morning, I had been running from meditation my entire life. I avoided it. I genuinely believed people who meditated were strange, and that was where I stood. So here I was, alone at home, hours after that dream. I closed all the blinds, I found some waterfall sounds, and I actually looked around the room as if someone were watching, because I was still embarrassed. I sat down and thought, oh boy, now I am officially becoming a freak. I laughed at myself, and I'm still laughing now. The contradiction of who I had always been versus what I was doing was not lost on me. Looking back, I can see it clearly. It was not a contradiction. It was what had been missing. Years later, I still laugh about how embarrassed I was. Now I laugh because I understand how much more there was for me to rediscover and how much there still is to learn. The lessons continue. They never end, and that is how we expand. I sat on the wooden floor, cross-legged, closed my eyes, and thought, so what do I do now? I remembered something simple I'd always heard people say, focus on your breathing, so I did. Breathe naturally. The same way you breathe right now without thinking about it. That is enough. For those who want to explore further, there are many breathing techniques worth discovering. Slower inhales, extended exhales, different patterns that deepen stillness over time. All of them have value. Your natural breath is always where it begins. About 15 minutes in, something happened I was completely unprepared for. An extraordinary feeling came over me. The only way to describe it is love, pure and complete. I felt as if the heavenly angels were singing, "Welcome home." My family had been waiting for my return, and in that moment I understood I was the prodigal son, finally returning to a place I had always belonged. They stood ready, not with judgment, not with questions, with open arms and an embrace I had never experienced before. I started crying, not from sadness, from something completely different. The closest word is joy, a warmth I had never known before. I normally see purple when I close my eyes. I always assumed everyone did. In that moment, I was completely immersed in it. Now, I want to be very clear. What unfolds for you will be your own. It may be similar in some ways or completely different from what I described, and that is perfectly fine. Each person is on their own path. Every discovery is uniquely your own. Keep your attention on what unfolds for you. Focus on what is already beginning within you. Meditation does not come with a guarantee of visions, of lights, or of intense feeling. Some have said, when I meditate, nothing happens. And my first question is always, what did you expect to happen? Expectation is where disappointment begins. And understand this, something is always happening. The mind is settling, the body is releasing. The awareness is shifting. It may not look like anything from the outside. It rarely does. Something is always happening. If it feels boring, it is usually because the mind is waiting for something dramatic. Meditation is not built on stimulation. It is built on awareness. Go into meditation without expecting to fly, to reach other dimensions, or to have the same experience as someone else. Go in with no agenda. Go in with willingness. That is all that is required. For me personally, there have been moments where I felt what I can only describe in my own mind as a kind of deep oneness. The closest way I make sense of it is as a connection to Source, to God, to the universe. That is simply how I interpret it. It has happened more than a few times. It does not happen every time, not even close. All of my regular meditation sessions vary. Some feel powerful, some are quiet, some feel completely ordinary. All of them still matter, and I continue to sit. Practice matters. Consistency matters. Your space, your time, your own preferences, all of it matters. What we build through regular practice cannot be built any other way. That initial experience was profound, and there have been moments since that carried that same depth in different places, different times, different forms. The practice does not diminish. It expands. Think of a musician. They do not practice to relive their first performance. They practice because every session builds something the last one could not reach. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Always expanding, always reaching, and the best is never behind us. What remains consistent every single time is what matters most. Insight, inspiration, balance, clarity. Those consistent gifts are worth far more to my daily life than any single dramatic moment. When we open the inner gate, we are choosing to align with the light that builds, protects, and remembers. And that choice, made with clear intention, is one of the most powerful things we can do. For me, and for many, it is in stillness that we find ourselves closest to God, to Source, to whatever name you give to that higher presence. And perhaps no one said it better or more directly than the psalmist thousands of years ago. Be still and know that I am God. Psalms 46:10. 4 words. 2,000 years old, still true. Meditation is ancient, not new age. This is a story shared across humanity. It is an ancient one. Meditation is one of the oldest practices in all of human history. Every culture, every tradition, every civilization that ever sought a deeper understanding of existence arrived at the same place, inward, still, listening. Some still associate it with New Age culture or pseudoscience. Given everything we have explored together in this episode and across this entire podcast, that association should already feel out of place. This is not new. These roots go back further than many realize. In Sanskrit, it is dhyana, deep concentration, the path to samadhi, union with the divine. The Upanishads teach that real knowledge comes from turning the senses inward. In Buddhism, bhavana is the cultivation of the mind. The Buddha taught that wisdom and meditation are inseparable. The Dhammapada says wisdom springs from meditation. Without meditation, wisdom wanes. In Jainism, meditation on the soul was the path to liberation. In Sikhism, Nam Simran, remembrance and repetition of the divine name. The Guru Arjan Dev wrote, "Just keep meditating, your meditation will be your ultimate peace." The early Hasidim sat in silence before prayer, a practice called Hit Bodhidut, emptying the mind to bind consciousness to God. In Christianity, the Psalms say, "Be still and know that I am God." The Desert Fathers built lives around solitude and inner stillness. The German mystic and theologian Johannes Eckhart once said, "Nothing in all creation is so like God as stillness." Stillness is present within Christianity just as it is across many traditions. The Sufis called it muraqabah, deep meditative focus, turning the heart toward Allah. The Quran says, "In remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest." The Tao Te Ching asks, "Who can wait quietly while the mud settles? Who can remain still until the moment of action? Zhuangzi spoke of the mirror mind, pure receptivity. Throughout history, Moses on the mountain, Christ in the wilderness, the Buddha beneath the Bodhi tree, Muhammad in the cave of Hira. Monks and mystics across every tradition chose solitude, silence, stillness. Dhyana, bhavana, hitbodhidut, murakaba. The word changes with the culture. The practice is the same, and the destination has always been the same, a return to what was always within. This is not New Age. This is ancient. Across every culture and time, those who sought the deepest knowing did the same thing. They went inward. They stilled themselves so the original signal could return. That signal is as old as the stars, and it still lives in us. When I went to India, in 2019, nearly a year had passed since that first meditation experience. It was January or February, and my birthday in March was coming up. I made a decision that was completely out of character for me. Instead of celebrating my birthday the way I always had, surrounded by family and friends, I felt a pull towards something different. Quiet, real quiet, the kind that does not exist in Los Angeles. I was not looking for a spiritual experience. I was not chasing anything. I simply wanted 1 week where no one would speak to me and I would not have to speak to anyone. No conversations, no obligations, no noise. I only wanted silence. I found an ashram in Rishikesh, India, that promised exactly that. A week of complete silence. Perfect, I thought. Exactly what I needed. Of course, it was not as quiet as expected. There was one person there who seemed completely oblivious to why the rest of us had chosen this sanctuary. Ironically, this person was from California. The noise I had traveled across the world to escape had followed me. The ashram itself was exactly what I had hoped for in that sense. Rooms of silence, no obligation to speak or be spoken to, and for those who wanted it, meditation sessions were available. Nothing mandatory. You could simply sit in silence, or you could participate whenever you felt moved. I chose to attend one session. It was led by a woman who had been teaching for nearly 20 years. The focus was practical, breathing techniques, sitting posture, the philosophy behind why these things matter. And through that one session, I learned more specifically about posture and spinal alignment, about hand positions and mudras, about why kneeling changes breathing and why standing meditation affects energy differently. Ancient practitioners understood something modern science is only now beginning to measure. The way we hold the body communicates with the brain and with the spirit. The science. Meditation changes the brain. At some point, I started wondering what was actually happening here, physically as much as spiritually. What is this doing to the brain, to the body, to the way we respond to things? And that is where things started to get interesting. There is a short documentary clip on YouTube. Under 4 minutes, it is called Meditation's Impact on the Brain. I recommend you find it and watch it. What it covers in those few minutes is extraordinary. Researchers studied what happens to the brain during meditation. Their focus was on 2 areas, attention and emotion. What they discovered is that the circuits in the brain responsible for regulating both can actually be transformed through consistent practice. One of the most remarkable findings involved a long-term meditator. When he meditated, the gamma wave activity in his brain was unlike anything the scientists had seen before. In ordinary people, gamma oscillations appear briefly, less than a second, and at low amplitude. In this practitioner, they were large, highly synchronized, and sustained for the entire duration of the meditation session. The researchers initially thought their equipment was malfunctioning. It was not. They had simply never seen a signal like that before. And here is what stood out most to me. Just 2 weeks of practice, 30 minutes a day, a total of roughly 7 hours, was sufficient to produce measurable changes in brain activity. 7 hours. That is all it took to begin reshaping the brain in objectively verifiable ways. To be clear, that is not 7 hours a day. That is 30 minutes a day for 2 weeks, or 15 minutes a day for 4 weeks. A total of 7 hours spread over time. That is all it took to begin changing the brain in measurable ways. The researchers concluded that well-being and warm-heartedness are not fixed. They can be cultivated, developed, strengthened through practice, the same way a skill is built. Studies also show that consistent practice begins producing measurable changes in brain structure. MRI scans reveal increased gray matter density in areas linked to learning, memory, and emotional regulation. A Harvard study using an 8-week mindfulness program produced measurable changes in memory, sense of self, empathy, and stress response. The evidence is clear. Meditation changes how we respond to stress, regulate emotion, and perceive the world around us. And beyond the brain, the human body generates an electromagnetic field. The heart produces the strongest bioelectromagnetic signal, measurable feet beyond the body. The HeartMath Institute has shown that coherent states of peace, love, and gratitude strengthen and expand that field. Many traditions have spoken about an aura, an energetic presence around us. What we know now is that meditators show measurable bioelectromagnetic shifts. To put that in practical terms, for most people, the electromagnetic field extends roughly 3 to 5 feet in every direction. HeartMath research has measured heart energy exchanged between individuals up to 5 feet apart. In states of genuine inner coherence, that field deepens and intensifies. Those with the ability to perceive energy fields, some visually, others intuitively, have long reported that advanced practitioners and deeply centered individuals carry fields that extend far beyond the average. Some have described fields reaching as far as 30 feet. What is most often described is not something seen with the eyes. It is felt. The energy, frequency, and vibration of someone deeply cultivated over time. You have felt it. You already know what this means. Science has not yet fully confirmed those observations. What it has confirmed is that the field responds to what you cultivate within. It is not fixed. It grows with your practice. We have all walked into a room and felt the magnetic charge of another person's presence before a single word was spoken. When we align with the light, that presence expands. It strengthens the field around the temple we live in. And while science continues to explore the limits of that field, most of us already recognize it in lived experience. Calm has a signal, so does tension. We feel presence before words are spoken. The mystics were not wrong. They arrived first. The truth about stillness. And stillness is where everything we have been building becomes most powerful. Stillness is mastery, not of the world, of ourselves. The mind wants to wander. The body wants to twitch. The ego wants to think about tomorrow's to-do list. Sitting truly still is an act of authority over ourselves. We control the itch. We allow the moment to be what it is. I once picked up a book called The Master Key System. Early on it instructed, sit perfectly still. Begin with 15 minutes and work up to 30. If you cannot do this, do not attempt the later exercises. I closed the book. The point was lost on me then, yet those lines stayed with me. I still have not gone back, though I may one day. Later I came to understand what that instruction was really pointing toward. It was about control, mind control, body control, and at a deeper level, allowing the Spirit to take the lead. 30 minutes of stillness is not required for meditation. It is required to master distraction, and distraction is the barrier. The soul is calm. The ego is restless. One leads, one reacts. Stillness reveals alignment. What is rooted in love rests in it. What is not tends to resist it. This is something to understand, not something to fear. And understanding it is enough. For those on a spiritual path, meditation becomes more than calming down. It becomes a return. At its deepest level, it is about restoring right leadership within. Soul first, then mind, then body. When that connection strengthens, love rises, insight rises, the light becomes easier to feel. That is when meditation becomes truly beautiful for the soul first and for the mind and body that follow. What most people do not talk about. There is a part of meditation that most people do not talk about. A lot of people avoid meditation not because they lack time or technique, but because silence feels uncomfortable. Without distraction, we come face to face with our thoughts, our feelings, and whatever we have been too busy to look at. Many would rather scroll endlessly than sit still to face ourselves. Many would rather be stimulated than still. Silence reveals us, and that revelation invites us to be honest with ourselves. Those who have followed this podcast already understand that awareness is the key to freedom. We have spoken about unseen forces, about the harvest of energy, about the importance of knowing what influences us. That awareness does not stop at the door of meditation. It is precisely where it becomes most useful. When we sit in stillness and choose to open ourselves, the quality of our intention shapes everything that follows. This is why we anchor first in love, in light, in the divine. Not every frequency that exists in the field around us is aligned with where we are going. This is not new information for those who have been on this journey. It is the reason why intention matters before stillness begins. This is why prayer comes before meditation. It sets the table. Precision is strength. Clarity is authority. Know your source. Name it for yourself. That specificity is not religion. It is the difference between a clear signal and an open line. What it means to walk a spiritual path. When I use the phrase spiritual path, I am speaking about alignment with something greater than individual ego, whether we call that God, divine light, creator, or source. This channel is for those who choose to walk in the light. And if we say we are spiritual or are beginning to sense that calling, we also accept this. If there is good, there is also a counterbalance. That does not mean we need to be afraid. It means we choose consciously and deliberately to walk in the light. In the Guardians of the Veil episode, we spoke about the distinction between those walking in light and those who have drifted. Those on a spiritual path understand that not everything is physical or visible, that awareness, far from being a burden, is the full picture. We recognize the presence of light in a person. They seem younger than their years. There is a calm, steady peace that radiates outward. You can feel it before they say a word. This is why regular self-checks matter. Ask yourself, how am I feeling? Do I feel genuine joy? Do I give love freely? Do I bring steadiness into tense spaces? Do people feel calmer when I am near? Am I responding or reacting? We all benefit from these checks regularly without judgment. Prayer and meditation, hand in hand, something many people of faith or those on a spiritual path have never considered. And the reverse is equally true. Some who meditate resist the idea of prayer, concerned it will make their practice feel religious or tied to a specific belief system. Both perspectives miss the same point. Prayer and meditation belong together. hand in hand. They complete each other. Prayer is powerful on its own. Ask, and you shall receive. Knock, and it shall be opened. That is not poetry. That is a promise. People have prayed their entire lives and received answers, protection, healing, blessings for themselves and for others. Prayer works. We give thanks through prayer. We intercede for others through prayer. We ask, we praise, we protect, we offer. Prayer is a full and complete act of communion with the divine. Meditation is another dimension of that same communion. Where prayer speaks, meditation receives. Where prayer asks, meditation listens for the answer. Not just the request, but the open stillness that allows a response to come through. And gratitude finds its place in both. In prayer, we offer it outward. In meditation, we feel it deepen within. Imagine placing a call and asking something important, then setting the phone down before the answer comes. That is not a criticism of prayer. It is an invitation to stay on the line a little longer. Together, they form a complete circle. Prayer reaches outward and upward. Meditation turns inward to where the answer already lives. One without the other is not wrong. Both work. Together, they work at a level most of us have never fully experienced. For those walking a spiritual path, this combination is where the practice truly deepens. Why precision comes first. The India ashram story. Meditation is the key. But first, you must guard the door. You already know I went to Rishikesh seeking complete silence. And as I mentioned, I never quite found it. What I did find there turned out to be far more important than the silence I was looking for. After one session, I approached the instructor, a woman who had been teaching meditation for nearly 20 years, and asked her, "What about protection? How do you teach students to align with benevolent light before opening themselves in meditation?" She looked at me puzzled and asked curiously, "What do you mean?" She had not mentioned it. In the entire session, there had been no guidance on establishing clear intention and alignment before entering deep openness. I said, "You did not mention how to anchor in the light, or how to be intentional about what we are aligning with before we open." She replied softly, "That is advanced. My own teacher practiced that and wrote about it. I was not taught those methods, and in nearly 20 years of teaching, I have not instructed students on that aspect." That answer never left me. Over the years, I have observed a pattern that I believe is directly connected to this gap. I've seen people who were genuinely walking in the light. You could feel it when they walked into a room. Their energy was warm. Their words were uplifting. Their presence brought calm. People were drawn to them. There was something real there, something you could feel without being able to fully explain. And then, over time, something shifted, not all at once, gradually, subtly at first, and then undeniably. The warmth became distant. The steadiness gave way to restlessness. The words that once lifted people began to feel scattered, inconsistent, sometimes even contradictory. The actions no longer matched the message. And the eyes never lie. They are the window to the soul. And when something has shifted within, you see it there first. What was once clear and open becomes distant, sometimes unsettled, sometimes something you cannot quite name, but cannot ignore either. You have felt this before. You have been around someone and sensed that something was off before you could explain why. You could not always put it into words. You just knew something had changed. Many of us have heard the wisdom, "You shall know them by their fruits," not by what they say, not by how they present themselves, by what their life actually produces, by the way they treat people when no one is watching, by the consistency between their words and their actions, by the peace or the chaos that follows them. The fruit does not lie any more than the eyes do. Confusion is the identifier. It does not announce itself loudly. It creeps in quietly. It shows up in the small things first. The inconsistency between what someone says and what they do. The restlessness that replaces their peace. The gradual shift from clarity to complexity, from warmth to something harder and more guarded. And here is what I have observed most consistently. The people this happens to often do not know it is happening. Confusion does not tap you on the shoulder and introduce itself. It enters through the gaps, through the moments of openness without grounding, through the stillness entered without clear intention, through the practice maintained without the protection of knowing who you are and what you stand for. When we open ourselves without clarity, we are not directing our awareness. We are leaving it undefined. And undefined awareness becomes influenced. Subtle influence is still influence. And over time, it adds up. And this becomes important. Not every thought that enters the mind is truth. Not every impression deserves agreement. That includes thoughts that feel powerful, even thoughts that feel inspired. There is a part of us that sounds exactly like clarity. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it is not. Most people know this part of the mind is the ego. I call it the self and the anti-self. One moment it tells you, you are elevated, you see what others do not see, you are above this. And in the next moment, that same voice will isolate you. It will tell you no one understands you. You are separate. You are alone in this. That swing is not clarity. That is distortion. Clarity is steady. Distortion moves. So even in stillness, even in meditation, even in moments that feel real, there is a responsibility to discern. The meditation instructor I met at the ashram taught what she knew. What I want us to understand is why this matters, especially for those on a spiritual path. When we anchor in the light with clear intention, we walk in that light with confidence. Precision is not fear. Precision is love choosing itself deliberately. You would not lock your door every night and then leave it open just once because you felt tired. One open moment is all it takes. This practice is no different. A chain is only as strong as its weakest moment. And in this space, consistency is the strength. Meditation is not vulnerability. It is alignment. Alignment is when what you believe, what you feel, and how you live move in the same direction without contradiction. When those three are unified, there is very little that can throw you off course. That is what we are building. Meditation is not about guarding ourselves from something outside. It is about remembering the authority that already lives within our temple. Silence is not empty. It is structured. Stillness is not passive. There is something very active happening in it when you truly sit inside it. The goal of meditation is not escape. It is integration. We are not entering to become smaller. We are entering to remember who is in charge. Alignment is not submission. It is precision. When intention sharpens, confusion dissolves. A light does not need to defend itself. It defines itself. We do not fight the dark. We become exact. Meditation is the recalibration of our inner constellation. Authority begins where reaction ends. What meditation has taught me about balance. The more peace we cultivate, the more sophisticated the challenges that arrive. Do not be alarmed. It is not regression. It is growth. It means something is being refined. Without keeping awareness sharp, it becomes easy to drift off the path without noticing. These trials arrive in ways we do not fully see until we are already inside them. The signal I watch for in myself when I start feeling distracted, unsettled, or unusually consumed by obligations rather than inspiration, that is a signal. When we are truly balanced, the things we have to do still get done. With a smile, that is a significant spiritual indicator, and then comes the real test. We are flying high. Composure is steady. Awareness is sharp. We are genuinely at peace, and just when we feel most anchored, here it comes. Often through the people closest to us, a conversation, an argument, something unexpected, and it throws us off. That moment is an invitation to return, nothing more. It does not mean we have failed. It does not mean we are not worthy. It means we are human, and that the practice of returning is itself the spiritual work. Just because we stumble does not mean we stay on the ground. Pick ourselves up. Strengthen awareness. The invitation will come again. That is what this is about. The more consistently we meditate, the quicker we recognize imbalance. We feel it faster. We recover quicker. Crisis handling improves. Reaction becomes response. We keep composure when those around us are showing every sign of stress. That is the real fruit of consistent practice. Expectation management. Enter meditation without expecting spectacle. Go in without looking for visions or dramatic experiences. For most of us, nothing of that nature happens. That is completely normal. Progress in meditation is subtle. Insight increases slowly. Peace deepens gradually. Some have extraordinary experiences. Some do not. Both are valid. Both are exactly as they should be. Not spectacle, alignment. Walking in courage. Courage is a foundation of the spiritual walk. Many avoid meditation because they are afraid to face themselves. Facing ourselves is the doorway to freedom. Stillness is where we meet who we truly are, beneath all the noise and distraction and busyness. And on the other side of that meeting is a version of ourselves we will be grateful to have found. The divine leads through love, through peace, through insight, through strength, through quiet conviction. When we align with that, we walk with a steadiness that becomes its own kind of protection. If at any point something arises that does not feel like peace or clarity, return to your intention, return to your source. That is always enough. Spiritual elevation. And so we come to what all of this has been building toward. You may not witness explosive fireworks, and you may. Either way, the absence or presence of spectacle never determines the depth of the work being done. Seeds take root in silence. They reveal themselves when life applies pressure. The shifts meditation creates are often invisible in the moment, yet they appear precisely when needed. We steady ourselves in crisis. We breathe when others tighten. We hold together while those around us fragment. That is what meditation builds. Not spectacle, stability, not escape, true center. For anyone walking a spiritual path, this goes far beyond stress relief, nervous system regulation, or mental clarity. The light within us does not need to be manufactured. It needs to be remembered through stillness, through intentional alignment with the divine, with source, with creator. We create the space for that remembrance. We return to what was always there. The Psalms remind us simply, be still and know. Those 4 words are enough. What we build in stillness does not stay in stillness. It walks into every room we enter. Over time, this is what changes. You begin to notice faster. You return quicker. You stand steadier. The situations around you may not change immediately. Who you are within them does. And that is the transformation that lasts. Think of it the way a plant needs water. Not all at once, not dramatically, consistently. Without it, the plant does not die immediately. It stops growing. Meditation is that nourishment, not for the body, for the part of us that is meant to grow, to expand, and to remember. Meditation is not self-improvement. It is reunion. It is reunion with who you have always been. If all we ever do is sit for 5 genuine minutes and breathe, that is enough. We have already begun. We are not learning something new. We are remembering something ancient that has always lived within us. So wherever you are right now, whether you feel clear, distracted, grounded, or somewhere in between, this is always available to you. You do not have to earn it. You do not have to force it. You simply return. If you have ever felt meditation was not working because nothing was happening, understand this. Something is always happening. You are not doing this for the moment. You are doing this for who you are becoming over time. Okay, my friends, remember this. The light is already within you. Stillness is where you come to recognize it. And I will leave you with these words written nearly 2,000 years ago by Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations. Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig. Thank you for joining us on this episode of MyStar Wisdom. Please subscribe and share so we can reach others on a similar path of awakening and exploration. By subscribing and sharing, you help us spread wisdom and insights that resonate with those who are ready to recall or open up to new concepts. Until next time, my spiritually related souls, keep living, keep striving, keep shining, keep praying, and keep meditating. Remember, I am your star. You are my star. We are all one. Until next time, this is Kaz, your quantumist at MyStar Wisdom, guiding you toward the celestial harmony that unites us all.
Numbers 11, 17. He asked the Lord, "Why have you brought this trouble on your servant? What have I done to displease you that you put the burden of all these people on me?" Kaz Quantumist. 17. I will come down and speak with you there, and I will take some of the power of the Spirit that is on you and put it on them. They will share the burden of the people with you, so that you will not have to carry it alone. Make sure to subscribe, share, and engage in the comments as we explore the truths that lie within.